It's me, James. Happy Monday to you all. I am filming this week's Oracle Outlook video reading on Monday, April the 7th, 2025. And once again, I'm using the deck that I have realized is the foundational deck in my personal practice. And I am working with the Mitchell Playing Card Tarot. If you're new to me and my video content, first and foremost, welcome to the channel. I thank you for taking time to check out this video and maybe, possibly, hopefully, explore other content on my channel. And if you're a returning viewer and visitor, I'd like to thank you for circling back around and continuing to support the work that goes into the channel. So, if you're new here, like I started out saying, this deck is a hybrid of a standard playing card deck and my take on the major arcana from tarot. Way back in the day, I had a dream of picking up the cards, and they were a combination of standard playing cards and the tarot cards. So this is a deck of my own making, and it is in honor of that dream. That dream served as an important one in my life and a foundation in my cartomancy practice. It actually was one of the two dreams that got me into cartomancy and being a cartomancer. And for those who may not know what that is a fancy word for a card reader. So we are here. We are going to go ahead and jump right in. So when I work with these weekly general readings, doing these readings, I work with a line of 5. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle the cards. And as I shuffle the cards, I always focus on the intention of having the cards share with us the possibilities for the week ahead, either in story, like an unfolding story, or possible insight, guidance, or wisdom that is going to help us move through the events of the upcoming week. And I also share that my personal disclaimer as a reader is that not 100% of what the cards convey is going to be applicable to 100% of the people who land on this video. So I always encourage people to take the snippet or the pieces of information that best resonate and just leave the rest. Final shuffle. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck. And now I'm going to fan out the cards. And then I look through the fan for 5 cards that are getting my attention. And when I say getting my attention, I just mean the cards that I'm feeling intuitively, led or guided to pull from the fan. So these are the 5 cards that are going to make up this week's reading. I'm going to take the remainder of the deck and put it aside. Now I'm just lining them up in the order that they were selected. Alright, so here we have our line, and when I work with my deck in this manner, I usually start with the card on the far left and work my way to the right. So the card opening the line up is the Queen of Diamonds. Okay, so here we have in the first position, we have a face card. So I'm going to read this two ways. This can be an actual person. So for me, in the way that I read playing cards, queens represent women. So this could be a woman who is at the forefront of a particular situation or experience this week. Now, I read with direction in mind, so if you notice, she's facing to the left of the line and there's no card here. So it could be that she is looking for a way to exit out of a situation because she's looking the opposite way of the other cards, right? Or that in other cartomancy practices with her back to the other cards, this could either be the past or this could be what's known as inauspicious placement, which means that she is going to be facing some challenges that she is not willing to face or deal with as she's moving through the week ahead. Now, as a person, she can represent, for me anyway, she can represent mothers-in-laws. So there may be a situation unfolding for people that have to deal, or dealing with, I should say, not have to deal, but dealing with mother-in-laws. So there is that. It could also be a woman who is practical, pragmatic, realistic in her approach, because for me, the suit of diamonds is associated with the element of earth, and so I tend to look at those things or associate those things with face cards. So again, she could be practical, realistic, energetic even, because the suit of diamonds for me can represent energy. It could also be because as a theme, and this is more of an approach now, we're moving away from it describing the Queen of Diamonds as a person per se. It may be more of an approach, and this would be more applicable to those of us who are not either female or a mother-in-law, something of that nature, right? So as an approach, she might say that to approach this week with a more pragmatic, practical, realistic approach, right? It could also be about the caring and nurturing, because queens for me as a theme represent caring and nurturing. So this could be caring and nurturing our material existence. So it could be caring and nurturing your physical body. It could be caring and nurturing your financial well-being. It could be caring and nurturing about your career. All those things fall into the realm for me of diamonds. So it could be body and physical well-being, material well-being, finances, and career, right? So it could be all of that. And I may draw a card at the end to see what she might be facing, right? To give us a little more information. But that's what I would say about the first card. So either as a person, this could be about a situation unfolding with a mother-in-law, or as an approach, it could be asking us to consider being practical, pragmatic, realistic around either physical well-being, financial well-being, or something having to do with our careers. Right? Okay. Now, it could also be, too, I'm coming back to a person. I'm looking at the card, so I'm going to hold this up just so people can see what I'm about to riff on. She's holding a flower. So as I was about to move on, the phrase getting your flowers was coming to my mind. So this could be about, somebody receiving some kind of recognition or some kind of reward. That would be the diamonds, right? Some kind of reward for something that was achieved, right? And the other thing I will say, as a queen, she could be also a person in a position of authority, right? It makes me think of, I'm associating the sign of Capricorn to this queen, and so there may be something having to do with one's reputation, public standing, or once again, career. Those are some of the things I associate with Capricorn energy. So there may be something about that nature, about that. Okay, so let's move on to the next card. And here we have, okay, so this could be a week unfolding where there's going to be other people involved in what takes place or what transpires, right? So here we have a king right behind the queen, another face card. So now this is the king of clubs. So clubs as a suit for me can represent the public. It can represent social issues, social activity, social events. It could also represent work or business as a suit. So here we have a king who, again, a person in authority, right? So here we have a boss, a manager, supervisor, somebody in a position within a business or a corporation, something of that nature. He's either a manager, supervisor, leader, or maybe like a CEO of a business. Now, in the realm of something public or something social, he could be a public figure, right? So somebody with some kind of standing in the community. But he can also be, like I said, a business authority in that sense. Now, in a more personal sense, he could also be somebody who is willing to be helpful. The King of Clubs is a helpful figure, okay? So, with the King and the Queen looking in the same direction, this could be two people who are in some form of agreement regarding their situation, right? Or it could be somebody who's following the lead of the Queen of Diamonds, right? Because he's right behind her, right? So he could be standing in support of what she might be looking to achieve or looking to accomplish. If we put a card here, that might give us a little more information. Or it could be somebody who is looking for something from her. Now, if I go with that as a possibility, then the suit of diamonds could imply that she has some sort of material resources that the king might be interested in or looking to acquire. Yeah. And then if we just go maybe more with an approach, just like I did with the queens and the queen of diamonds, and not make it about a person per se, then this card is about control, power, and mastery as a theme. That's where kings are for me. So it could just be a matter of, mastering our resources, again, diamonds, mastering our energy, again, diamonds. The pairing as two suits, if we just remove the king and queen, just go with the emblems, then this would be here, the reward, diamonds, for work or effort, clubs. So it's very interesting. It brings me back to what I said about, receiving your flowers, where you receive your flowers for something that you have achieved, something that you took action on, something that you worked towards, yeah? So that's saying the same thing if we remove the face cards and just go with the emblems, that could be talking about that, right? So it could be saying too, like if you want to achieve something, if you want some kind of reward for something, or that the reward comes in work or effort, yeah? But now another thing about the relationship with the queen not facing the king and him facing her could also be, like I said, in a positive sense, it could be like seeking support, or, he's her backup, right? He's got her back. But it could also be that the queen is ignoring the king, right? Because again, she's not facing him, right? So it could be like the king is trying to get her attention, and for some reason, he's being overlooked. Now, if this is a relationship, it could be a woman who's putting a man in the rear view, right? If it's not the more positive aspect and the more challenging aspect, she could be putting him in the rear view, right? Which means that she's putting him behind her. And she may be moving on into an uncertain future. Her future looks uncertain, but she's clear on the fact that he's a part of the past, right? And again, if I go with auspicious placement, it could be a woman who's having a challenging relationship with a man in particular. Again, it could be a person in authority, like her immediate supervisor, if this is a working type situation. Or that she is having a challenge making a relationship work, clubs, with a particular man. Okay, so now let's move on. And here we have, I'm going to turn it this way because I have a particular orientation for certain cards. So here we have, at the heart of the matter, we have the Six of Clubs. So now here we have two clubs back to back. So clubs is now the ruling majority. So the theme of the reading so far would be about work or business, something having to do with the public, something having to do with society or social issues, social events, things of that nature. So if this is a working situation, at the heart of the matter we have communication, that would be the 6, about either work-related or job-related responsibilities. Again, the 6. The 6 as a number for me in cartomancy can represent things having to do with communication or responsibility. So at the heart we have maybe communications regarding work or job responsibilities or duties. So there's that. It could also be that there's something about communication just generally speaking, and that would be like we are working towards better communication. Now, interestingly enough, if this is a public figure, then this would be about public speaking, because the 6 of clubs for me can represent speaking. And so this would be speaking in large circles, right? This is the public speaker card because the suit of clubs can represent things having to do with the public. So in another context or another aspect, this is the card for me that's known as the act of reading. So this could be somebody who is on tour, you know, like they've written a book and they're on tour speaking about the book or speaking about aspects pertaining to a book, something of that nature. Or it could be somebody who's doing public speaking on how he, King of Clubs, wants to be helpful to the public, or how he wants to be of assistance, or that the King and the Queen are having a conversation about their relationship, whether it's work-related, business-related, or something of a more personal nature, about how to make it work. Now, I will say for me, the 6 of clubs is also a card that can be for card readers. So, you know, when it comes up for me, I usually have it show up in my life as, you know, either I'm doing a reading for myself, or, you know, I'm having a conversation about a reading with another person, or I'm actually in the act of reading cards that day for people. And then the King of Clubs would be me in that role as a professional, offering that as a service to another person, right? So there's that. So there may be something if other people resonate with that aspect of, so this could be about you and your card reading practice. You know, and with that, there is some level of responsibility. You are responsible for how you come across in terms of what you say to your clients and how you say it. Right, and so the other aspect of this card, for me, it's about advice, and with it being in the middle of the line, so this is about the giving and receiving, giving and or receiving of advice. So you may be in a position this week where you're being asked to offer advice, or you may be in a position where you're on the receiving end of advice. With it being in the middle of the line, it can mean it can go either way, right? But there may be something about advice. And so I'm one, and I've learned this from my own life experience when it comes to advice. There are 2 things to consider. Number 1, was it solicited or unsolicited advice? Meaning, did you ask another person to offer their opinion on your situation? If you did, that's considered solicited advice, and that you are seeking what that the information that that person has about, you know, the experience that you're inquiring about. Or if they just offered it on their own, that's unsolicited, and so you have to consider the source, right? That's the other aspect that I want to offer. Number 2 is consider the source when it comes to advice, right? So here, maybe in this setup, the king might be seeking the advice of the queen. And maybe based on her past experience, yeah, with the other cards behind her. So that's what I would say about the 6 of clubs. Again, it might be about job or work or business related responsibilities or communications, or it could be about advice or the act of reading, or something having to do with public speaking. Okay, so now let's move on to the card in the fourth position here. And here we have, I'm going to turn it over because I don't read reversals. It's just another aspect of my practice that came as a result of a dream. So maybe I'll talk about that at some point in the future if people are interested. But here we have the Knight of Spades. And so now here we have a Spades card, different suit. So whenever I get a Spades following a club, here we have working our way into a problem or a challenge or a block, because the suit of Spades for me can represent blocks, challenges, and obstacles, yeah? And then with the Knight of Spades in particular, here we have, being prepared for a challenge, being prepared for a problem, because he's all armored up, right? He's armored up. He's defending himself or preparing to defend himself with an oncoming, or as he faces an oncoming problem or challenge, right? And so it may come as a result of order of the cards. It may come as a result of something that is said in public. Remember, this is the public speaker card. Or, maybe getting some advice about being quote unquote armored up, or needing to defend oneself or one's position. Right? The other thing about spades for me represents the realm of the mind. So this could be ideas, ideology, the mind, mindset, a consciousness. So it could be defending one's ideology or an ideology. Now, in terms of a person, for me, this could represent things having to do with the military or law enforcement, things of that nature. Somebody who's in a position to enforce some rules, regulations, policies, things like that. Or this could be somebody who maybe is going to be affected by some rules, regulations, policies, yeah? Again, going with the idea that these could be people who are in positions of authority, right? And then knights, if we go with that as a thing, then knights usually are in service to people who are in positions of authority, right? The knights can be people who are in service occupations, right? So that's how I would look at the Knight of Spades. And now moving on to the last card. Here we have, okay, so now we have the Two of Clubs. Again, ruling majority. So now the suit of clubs is ruling majority. And so again, just as a reminder, for me, the suit of clubs again represents work, business. It could be working towards something as a suit of action, which would imply there's effort involved in that. But also something having to do with the public, social issues, society at large, things like that. Now, we had clubs, spades, clubs. So I talked about working our way into a problem. When I get it this way with the spade and then the club after it, it's about working out problems. So there could be some challenges this week that we work our way into and then work our way out of, right? Or there may be ups and downs because of the club, spade, club pattern. There may be some ups and downs regarding work and business. So something on the job front, something on the business front. Or there's some ups and downs regarding the public at large. So it would be something that has to do with a group of people, a community of people. Okay, so now the Two of Clubs at the end. This is, for me, a card that can talk about friendship, right? So we had a king and a queen, right? And then we have a card that can talk about either a working relationship, a friendship, something having to do with co-workers, at least two people because of the number on the card, right? And so we are working towards something that is mutually beneficial for two parties involved, right? So it could be a mutually beneficial friendship, a mutually beneficial working relationship, partnership. Again, that would make sense with the king and the queen. If the king is seeking something having to do with resources that the queen is in possession of, then this would be something like, how do we make that work for both parties involved? Right? Now, at the end of the line where I talked about this is about advice, the giving and or receiving of advice going either way because of its placement. Here at the end of the line with the Two of Clubs is about being on the receiving end of the line, being on the receiving end of either help, support, or aid. Right? So now this is also in the business sense. This is a card about service, and it's funny, I talked about the knights being service oriented type people or service oriented occupations. This would make sense with the Two of Clubs. This would be about offering a service, right? And again, this would be maybe for some people either something having to do with books, something having to do with communication, like public speaking, offering your services as a speaker, or offering your services as a reader. Right? And then the last thing I would say, this card is about gifts. So it could be the literal receiving of a gift. Right? And then that would come back to the queen about material resources. So it could be receiving a gift, a literal physical gift, or it could be like the right and perfect use of one's gifts, talents, and abilities. Right? And with the understanding that if we're looking at our gift, our talents, our abilities, understanding that we are the custodian of the gift is not ours. It is not just for ourselves. It is meant to be shared. That's the two. It is meant to be shared with other people. All gifts of either, a personal level or spiritual level, depending on your level of consciousness, spades, they are meant to be shared with other people. But in the end, I'm going to go more with the idea about mutually beneficial working relationships, meaning it could be a work-related relationship or putting in the work or effort to make a relationship work. But it has to be something that works for both parties involved. And so before I end this reading, I said I was going to draw a card for the Queen of Diamonds, and I'm still going to do that. So I have the rest of the deck in hand. I'm going to take a moment to shuffle the cards with the idea that I'm asking the cards to share with me what the Queen of Diamonds is potentially facing as the week unfolds. So I'm shuffling 3 times. That was the 3rd time, in case you can't see that. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut the cards. I'm trying to do it with a little bit of what I'm doing in the corner of the screen so you can see it. I'm going to fan over the cards. Okay, and now I'm going to look for a card to pick. And I'm just going to simply put it here. So now let's take a look at the card. And here we have the 9 of Hearts. This in cartomancy is known as the wish card. So now, in terms of what she could be facing, she could be facing something that she's hoping for, wishing for, that kind of thing. She also could be looking for something that is emotionally satisfying. The 9 here is about gain or attainment, and this would be gain or attainment on an emotional level. Hearts is the suit of feelings, emotions, and relationships, right? So maybe in this relationship with the King of Clubs, she's going to be focused on or looking towards getting a hope or a wish fulfilled, or gaining some kind of emotional gain or attainment, or some sense of fulfillment or satisfaction on that level. Right? It could also be Hearts is the suit for me that represents healing. So it could be like if there is a relationship issue or challenge, again, putting in work or effort to make a relationship work, then this could be a matter of gaining some sort of healing on an emotional level, like emotional healing regarding this relationship. Okay? Now, as an approach, it could be, if it's not about a woman, remember now, if these are not about actual people and there are more approaches to the week ahead for the rest of us, right, then this could just be about, being realistic. Diamonds, remember, diamonds about practical, being pragmatic and realistic about our hopes and our wishes, right? And as we move towards seeking maybe more emotionally fulfilling lives, yeah? It's like don't have your the expression that's coming to me in the moment is like not having our heads in the clouds, being as realistic as possible when it comes to our hopes, our dreams, and our wishes this week. And so on that note, I will wrap up this week's Oracle Outlook video reading. If you made it to this point in the reading with me, I thank you for giving me the gift of your time. As I always say when I get to this part of the reading, there are lots of places you can place your time and attention. So if you are willing to give me the gift of your time and attention, I don't take that lightly. I am extremely grateful. So, James Himm Mitchell signing out. I look forward to sharing this space with you again next week for our next Oracle Outlook video reading. And until then, I hope you're having a great day. Hope you're going to have a great week. And take care.